Greetings everyone and welcome to the fourth episode of my Flutter Web tutorial series. Continuing right where we left off last week, we will be creating a responsive landing page for my Flutter Web developer portfolio. As always, we stick to a simple design focusing mainly on structure, functionality and responsiveness. Similar to our previous video where we added the top navigation bar, we will start off with the desktop view, create a basic structure and then concentrate on responsiveness and aesthetics. After that, we do the same for the mobile view to make sure our website looks nice on all kinds of devices. So let's jump right into it. First thing we want to add is this bottom bar down here with a divider, some icon buttons and this little information text. For this, create a new Dart file with a stateless widget and call it bottom bar. In the build method, add the parameters screen width and screen height so we can make our widgets adjust to the current screen size. Add a column and now we can start filling it with each of our elements. The first element is the divider, which will be a container we wrap with a center alignment. To make this container look like a line, we give it a height of 2, a width of 90% of the screen width and the color white. Let's quickly jump back to the home page, add our bottom bar widget to the desktop view and see how it looks. Perfect, just as expected. The second element of our bottom bar is a row consisting of these icon buttons at the left and this information text at the right. So for this, go to our bottom bar file and add a row with main axis alignment space between. We're already wrapping it with a container and some padding to give it some proper size. The children are going to be another row and the information text. For the row of icon buttons, we need to import two packages. First, the Font Awesome Flutter package to display the YouTube, LinkedIn and GitHub icons. And second, the URL launcher package, which is handling opening the corresponding URL depending on which button we click. To save us some work, we're going to create an individual stateless widget for our icon buttons, which we're giving the icon data we want to be shown, a URL to be launched on click and a color. In our build method, add the screen height and let's return an icon button. The icon is going to be a font awesome icon from our package with the given icon data. Now for the onPressed method, we want to call the openURL method with the given URL. Set the icon size, give it the color from above, and set the splash and highlight color to transparent. The openURL method is an asynchronous method checking first if the URL can be launched. If yes, we launch it, else we throw an error message. That's it for our custom icon button. Let's add them to our bottom bar. We have 3 icon buttons. The first one is the one for YouTube with a YouTube icon, a corresponding link, and the color red. We will do the same for the other 2 icons. Add some sized boxes in between each icon button to give them some space. Since the actual bounding box of some icons might not exactly correspond to what you actually see, I'm adding a slightly bigger box between the YouTube and GitHub icon to make it look symmetric. To wrap our bottom bar up, let's just add the text here as well and give it a white color. Just to clarify, this code here is the Unicode character for the copyright sign. So when we hot restart, you can see how it looks. So our bottom bar is done and we can continue with the content of the Home tab. For this, go to our homepage.dart file first and change the content of our content views list. Let's create an individual Dart file for each of our content views. Once that is done, add them as content to the content views list. Now head over to our home view widget and add some content to it. As you can see, we have 3 elements shown in the home view: a header, 3 subheaders and a picture. So let's create the widget for each of them. Starting with the header, it's not enough to create a simple text widget since there's one word in a different color. So we need to create a rich text widget which is consisting of 3 text spans as children. Our default color will be white and we are giving the second text span a separate color. Since we have multiple subheaders, we want to have an individual text showing. We give it a string parameter and return it in a text widget with a gray color. As you can see, I've given some fixed font sizes for now, but we will change that at a later point to make it responsive. The third element is the picture. In a container, add some fixed height and width for now. To get this circular shape, we have a clip our rect widget and give it a border radius which is half the size of our width and height values. To add the image from an asset, we quickly have to add an assets folder, copy the image in it and add it to the pubspec file. So our main components for the home view are prepared. Now let's work on our build method. Again, we are adding a layout builder widget, and depending on the current width of the window, we show either a desktop or a mobile view. Add the missing methods and let's start working on the desktop view. For this, we will add a row with centered alignment. The children are the container in which we will put our header and subheaders, and the picture. The container has a width of 45% of the current screen width and will display each header or subheader in a column layout. Simply add all the widgets we want, and also let's already add the picture. Reload the page, and now we can see that roughly everything we want is there, but it still doesn't look that nice. So let's change that by first adding some space between each of the headers with a size box, and also between the headers and the picture. Next, we have the problem of having fixed font and picture sizes. For this, I've prepared these two helper methods, one for the image size, one for the font size. For both methods, what we essentially do is check both the screen height and screen width, and depending on that, or increase the size. I came up with these values through a lot of testing and playing around, but of course they highly depend on your individual design and structure of your website. For the font size, I'm also differentiating between the header and the subheader, and simply multiply the font size with 2.25 if it's the big header. So let's change our header and subheader widget to take in a dynamic font size value and adjust it in our desktop view. What we also have to do is add the method to our image size. Once we hot reload, we can see that everything is scaling properly now. But we are still using the default font, which looks alright, but let's add some fancier fonts for our text. We create a new folder called Fonts and move our desired fonts in there. To be able to use them in the project, let's go to our pubspec file and add them like this. Run pubget and restart your project so we can use them. We want to make the Barlow font our default font, so let's add it to our main.dart file as font family within our theme data. We want to use the DM serif display font for our main header, so let's move to the header method and change its font family. Once we reload the page, we can see that the new fonts are being displayed. As a last step, let's add the mobile view, which simply is a column layout with the profile picture, the header and the subheader. Put some sizing boxes in between and we are already finished with the mobile view as well, thanks to having individual components which we can plug in however we want. To show it on our website, let's quickly add a list view builder to our mobile view in the homepage.dart file and display each content of our content views list. Alright guys, that's it for today. Our landing page is created, functional and responsive for all kinds of screen sizes. Let me know what you think of today's tutorial, and as always, feel free to ask any questions you have. Have a lovely day and see you next week for a new upcoming episode of my Flutter Web tutorial series. Thanks for watching.